Welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses, and good things come to those who wait, not just for this episode, not just for Ylber Ramadani, who had an excellent debut the other night, which we will come on to, of course, but ourselves, Calum. 1,000 subscribers, finally. And I suppose a big thank you, of course, to all of you at home that tune in, whether it be on YouTube, audio, for supporting the show and also ultimately getting us that aim. Calum, your emoji was sunglasses. To big glasses, I feel like Graham Hunter. You've gone for the sombrero as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for your support. What a start to the show, Calum.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting this, but I certainly was expecting to hit 1,000 subscribers, let alone whilst I was at Transmit. It was a bit chaotic. My throat's still a little bit strained, but thank you very much for everyone for your support. I mentioned maybe before the start of the league season, absolutely smashed it out the park. So thank you very much for your continued support, I suppose you could say, as we carry on and we have wins to talk about and transfers. It's all very exciting here over on Red Tinted Glasses.
I know, I feel like Graham Hunter doing a video with his sunglasses on, so I think I'm going to have to take them off, actually, because it's going to hurt my eyes. I feel a bit like Davide in Love Island watching somebody in double HD.
Jesus.
There's a bit of content that people probably didn't expect on this episode already. But as Calum, you did say, coming up on the episode today, we will look at the transfers that have been occurring. There's obviously not been many ins, but certainly speculation. And then we will look back at the start to our Premier League sports group stage campaign. God, that's such a tongue twister. I'm not going to get used to that. It's halfway through, 2 wins, 2 clean sheets, and 2 2-0 wins. Lots of twos in there and lots to be positive about. God, this is already feeling weird. Positivity in this podcast. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it, Calum?
I know, it's very, very weird. It's so nice actually having good things to talk about and not just complaints about the same things over and over again. But I'm going to stick with sombrero. I hope that won't distract you too much. And let's get stuck into it.
Yeah, let's. It's definitely not going to distract me. I like it's giving me that European flavour that I'm sorely missing this season. But as I said, we're going to start with transfers. Long awaited, Ylber Ramadani finally arrived on Monday into Aberdeen before making his debut in midweek against Dumbarton. We'll come on to his performance against the Suns later on in the episode, but good to see him finally arrive, with Jim Goodwin then confirming he still wants 3 or 4 more. After the Peterhead game, he did say Bojan Majowski's visa will take about 7 to 10 days, so hopefully maybe see some movement on that this weekend, early into next weekend, maybe, fingers crossed, in time for us facing Stirling Albion in midweek. That would be good. And Calum, I suppose, was it Sherlock and Watson we are? Look at Instagram detectives over here. As Christian Ramirez's wife heads back to the Granite City, maybe the American striker future does still lie in the Granite City for another season. And if he's going to continue to put in decent performances, not half-arsed, Gary, you knew I was going to mention it after your comment at Peterhead, and I'm getting it in early for you. Then, look, there's going to be competition for places up front. If it's going to bring out the best in him, I'm all here for him staying to see out his contract.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he started very, very well, albeit, not against the best opposition. And hopefully now that maybe the toys are back in the pram, and then with the family moving back over, he'll be a little bit more settled as well. Once again, scoring goals. Lovely tan. What's not to love?
But you can understand why, obviously, there is that feeling of upset towards him from fans for the way last season kind of ended from him or his point of view. We were obviously disappointed ourselves at him going back early, but the best way, I suppose, to win the support back is by finding the back of the net.
Absolutely. And boy, is he doing that. I mean, we'll come on to the Dumbarton game. Probably, unfortunately, it's ended up with a goal in that game through one reason or another. But certainly, I mean, like I said, regardless of the level of opposition, he's there to score goals. And that's what he started doing. And with some cute celebrations, shall we say, as well to boot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dedicating the second goal to his daughter on his second birthday in the 2-0 win over Peterhead. Up front, though, there is widely rumoured, I think Jim Goodwin even confirming it in his pre-match press conference ahead of the game in midweek, that Luis Lopes is set to sign for Aberdeen from Benfica, product of the Benfica Academy, currently plying his trade for the B team over in Portugal. I'm loving this international Dons look we're going for this season. I'm liking how you're continuing the theme with the sombrero as well. We're almost going for the international podcast look.
I know, I actually do a lot, pretty much with the moustache and the sombrero, a little bit the nearly transparent complexion, and that's despite receiving some sunburn over the weekend. But yeah, Luis Lopes, I am absolutely loving this. We're not just signing these absolute jobbers from down in England. We are looking further afield, and okay, I'll admit it, don't have a clue about him at all, but we're signing a Portuguese striker, or rumoured to be. That's just exciting. It just gets the juices flowing a little bit.
He's so Portuguese, he actually plays for Cape Verde. That's how I'm glad you've done your research.
Well, he played for the Portuguese under 18s and 19s, so I'm having it.
Yeah. As ever, at the forefront of research on this podcast. Just stay for the last, really. But one Don that has gone international is Lewis Ferguson. The transfer saga hasn't dragged out much longer, with the Scottish midfielder completing a 5-year deal with the Serie A side. Aberdeen rumoured to be receiving £2.1 million up front, with £900,000 in add-ons, making the deal up to £3 million, if you believe the rumours from the journalists that are about, because Aberdeen, of course, going with the undisclosed fee. Calum, thoughts on Lewis Ferguson's departure to Bologna and the fee involved?
I think first of all, I think it's a very good move for him. I quite like the fact he's going abroad, testing himself. Saw how Bologna in particular worked out for Aaron Hickey, now getting a move to the Premier League. And for us, I think it's a very good deal. I think the time's about right. Last season, sort of toys right at the pram, and then he did knuckle down, admittedly, despite his attitude sometimes maybe coming into question. Certainly, definitely not by me after that Motherwell game. Whoops. I think it's a very good move, and the fee maybe not quite what we could have got once upon a time. But regardless, that on top of the Calvin Ramsey money right now, going a long, long way in helping us, and we're reinvesting it too. I hope there's a sell-on clause as well, still very young, and we know if he goes and presses in Italy, then certainly clubs in England will probably then be looking at him, or maybe slightly bigger Italian clubs than sort of mid-table Bologna, no disrespect. I think it's a good deal all round, and I think he served us very, very well. And I think I'm going to miss him more than I maybe appreciated him whilst he was here. A bit like the Kenny McLean, where some people didn't quite appreciate him when he was here and then realised how much we missed him. But hopefully, Ylber Ramadani will sort of fill that void and make me not realise quite as much how much I should have appreciated Lewis Ferguson whilst he was here. But some fantastic moments for the club and things like that always popped up in the big moments. So all the best to him, really.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that thoughts on wishing him all the best. And you're totally right. It is a brave move, bold move, moving over to Italy, giving himself a new challenge, testing himself. Obviously, spoken to Aaron Hickey and seen how well he did over there, and sees this as a potential pathway. As you rightly say, England, bigger Serie A teams, potentially with the greatest of respects to Bologna, might find Bologna fans commenting, calling themselves a big team. But he said, he certainly generated a lot of memories, a lot of good bounces for Aberdeen fans. I do agree. I think, well, I don't know, maybe you don't. Will he be a big miss for Aberdeen? Obviously, we've seen Ylber Ramadani, who was signed as the replacement, albeit against Dumbarton, look very impressive. So early positive signs, but Lewis Ferguson provided a lot of goals over the last couple of seasons. I know people will caveat that and say a lot of them are penalties, but you still got to score them. Mm-hmm. Will Lewis be a miss for us next season?
I hope he won't be as much as, sort of mentioned Kenny McLean. I hope he won't be as much as you cover yourself with a sheet of paper there. I hope he won't be as much of like a clear miss, because when Kenny McLean left, that sort of creativity was very much lacking. But I mean, even now, perhaps not quite replaced him, but hopefully we'll be okay. We've done all right without him. But I don't know. Someone mentioned to me, Lewis Ferguson, he does a lot of things like really quite good, but there's nothing like specific where he's like a specialist at it, which a lot of players obviously are nowadays. He's sort of that classic box to box. So I'm hoping maybe in that sense, with the likes of Ramadani, Barron coming through, McCrory being more of a presence in that midfield, we might be okay. I just think, thinking back on the good times is with that goal against Burnley and Rangers, that's sort of more where I'll miss him, just the memories sort of side of things.
Yeah, and I suppose what would be your favourite memory of Lewis Ferguson? Could you pick between that Burnley and Rangers moment?
It is tough. And really, it probably should be the Rangers one because, it got us through to the final. It was against Rangers at Hampden with all his sort of connections with that club as well through family. But I mean, Burnley, gone down there, England thinking, okay, we did end up getting knocked out, but everyone thinking we'll get absolutely smashed. We put up a good fight. It was a great day out in the sun, the Burnley Cricket Club beforehand. And what a goal it was, 18 years old, to pop up and do that. The audacity to even attempt it. I think, and just for the wild celebrations, I think I might give it to that.
Yeah, I know. I'm on that. Who's that Burnley vlogger? I'm on his YouTube. Yeah, I'm on his YouTube video celebrating the goal rather wildly with Jake Grant, acting all lot hard to the Burnley fans. Insert that David Brent clip here. But excuse me, the Lewis Ferguson goal at Hampden against Rangers is definitely up there for me as well, because that should have been a game where we had a huge support, given it was a Hampden semi-final. But for one reason or another, there wasn't a big Aberdeen support, or the usual big Aberdeen support that we take to Hampden. And for me, that enhanced that game because there was the atmosphere generated by those that were there was something special, and it was kind of a bit of a backs to the wall performance at times, and to go up and smash and grab the winner in that manner was definitely up there. But even the clips of the goals that the club tweeted out, I think it was a 3-minute clip, and some of the goals I'd almost forgotten about. Some of the goals he scored and bounces that he created in them as well. The overhead kick against Livingston, for one at Pataudry, was one that stuck out. In the free kick he scored against Kilmarnock, I think that was in a game that we were struggling in, but also on the back of a time where he'd been getting a bit of stick himself, and it was an excellent free kick into the bottom corner. And I suppose, there was times when he, did get criticism. Maybe it was, as you said, it's family connections, the connections to that club in Glasgow. But it never, I certainly felt, never really let it affect much of his performances.
No, I don't think so. And also in the way he sort of spoke about Aberdeen when he went, now that he's left as well, I didn't expect him to be so complimentary of the fans. I won't lie. But he certainly was, and he was very appreciative of everyone at the club. So I really do wish him all the best. And if he can go and create all that sort of memories for Bologna fans or wherever else as well, then I think he'll be a massive hit over there too. Yeah,
absolutely. So all the best in Italy, Lewis. And we'll be keeping an eye on your progress. But progress is what Aberdeen are hoping to do to the next round of the Premier Sports Cup. And we kicked our campaign off up in Peterhead in ridiculously hot conditions that are far too unacceptable for someone of my skin colour, let alone hair colour. Yes, there is still some hair there before you say it, Calum. Yeah, clinging on desperately. A beautiful day in Peterhead. Saw 6 debuts for an Aberdeen side. Kelle Roos started in goals. Do you think with Kelle Roos starting the Cups, are we seeing a thought process from Jim Goodwin on who the keeper might be, number one, when we face Celtic in the Premiership? Or is this a classic case of we're playing our cup keeper?
I don't know. I have a feeling... I think a lot would depend on the last 2 games, because maybe Kelle Roos getting his chance before Joe Lewis gets a couple of games to get ready for the Celtic game. But the fact he's going with Kelle Roos, you would have thought, they're going to pick their number one goalkeeper and they're going to stick with him until something goes very badly wrong. And in the build-up to that Celtic game, it looks like it's going to be Kelle Roos for me. And obviously right now, we've not seen him be tested too much. He's looked comfortable with whatever he's had to do, really. It was an interesting one, but it was certainly a surprise to me. I thought perhaps people are going to do game about as well. But certainly seems with the way right now, Calum is going to get that number 1 jersey, at least to start with, because Derby fans were very wary to warn us that there could be a cock-up in there, but so far, so good.
Yeah, so far. But yeah, he hasn't really been tested apart from that one save in the second half of the game on Sunday, which was an excellent save to tip it over the bar for a corner. And, I think Jim Goodwin even acknowledging the fact that he didn't have anything really else to do in the game, and the fact that he was so switched on and alert to make that save is hugely important. 2 more debuts occurred in our centre-back. In fact, it was a whole back 4 full of debuts, competitive debuts anyway, for Liam Scales, Anthony Stewart, who was named new club captain for this season, with Ross McCrory being vice-captain. Mason Hancock, not Matt Hancock, as Ian and Brune kept calling him last night. I was really paranoid I was going to trip up on that today during recording. And Jaden Richardson at right back. Again, not much for the defence really to be tested. I thought Liam Scales was very impressive in both games. It looked really good. Jury for me still out on the 2 wing backs. We'll maybe come on to that, but certainly against what they've had to deal with, they look good going forward. Defensively, we'll see. But thoughts on those 4 from what you saw of the highlights of the Peterhead game, and also your thoughts on Anthony Stewart being named club captain, because I know Wycombe fans certainly spoke highly of him, but there were certainly fans that I spoke to at the game on Sunday had their reservations about somebody new to the club coming in and being captain. I think we've seen that in the replies as well on Twitter as well.
I'll start with Anthony Stewart being club captain. It's an interesting one. From what I saw of the Brecon game, he looked like a bit of a leader. He liked to marshal that defence, but you'd expect that with his experience. I think it is a very interesting one. Not often you see new players being brought into the club and immediately being made club captain. But at the same time, not many of the players around the club right now will have been there for particularly a long time. So I think, why not? What I saw, first of all, in the Brecon game, certainly when you can actually hear what he was saying, looks a good leader. We mentioned that at the time too. I'm all behind it. And he seems very keen. I actually watched his interview today now that I've got your Red TV login. And I quite like the way he talks about liking to embrace sort of the fans and make the club sort of feel like that family culture kind of thing. I do like that quite a lot, and clearly Jim Goodwin a big fan of that too. So it's certainly one that I'm happy with. Ross McCrory obviously is vice captain too, one that Jim Goodwin mentioned that was probably future captain material. So I think it's only right. But it does feel good to have a couple of options for that leadership roles now these days, as opposed to last season, where even our supposed leader last season was not very good at it and then left in March. So hopefully the same doesn't happen this season. But happy with that. And in terms of what I've seen of the back 4 so far, I watched the highlights. The highlights didn't offer too much by ways of seeing how the back 4 were performing, but the wing backs certainly we've seen so far give good threats going forward. Maybe not quite so much end products as of yet, although Jaden Richardson unlucky not to have an assist from that first game against Peterhead. It'll be very interesting, especially against Wraith, where it is, even though it's not quite Premiership opposition, they do have players capable of causing problems, as we saw last season. It'll be interesting to see how they are defensively, and how are they, especially in keeping that shape, because obviously they will be encouraged to bomb forward, but they do need to be a bit more disciplined when they come up against better oppositions with wingers who will actually cause them issues.
Yeah, and I suppose one thing that's really surprised me from the 2 games so far is that Mason Hancock's actually started both competitive games anyway. And although he went off injured in the first half against Peterhead, it was Marley Watkins that came on replacing him, and we haven't seen Kieran Ngwenya playing. And the reason I say it's surprising is because a couple of weeks back, he was joining Arbroath on loan, and now he's almost forced his way into Jim Goodwin's thoughts ahead of Kieran Ngwenya, who I'm maybe wrongly assuming here that given his lack of game time, maybe the club are thinking another season out on loan suits Kieran best.
Possibly. I mean, it definitely is a surprise. Even turning up to that Brecon game, I was surprised that it was Mason Hancock starting at left back. I don't know whether Ngwenya will maybe get his chance in the next two games. I know Jim Goodwin said that even in the sort of 20-25 minutes prior to him going off, Mason Hancock maybe wasn't performing particularly well, but he said to him once they found out he was going to be okay to play for that game against Dumbarton, that not lock his confidence that he will get another chance, which I do actually quite like, and I think he's looked pretty good, certainly going forward against Dumbarton. It'll be interesting to see if Kieran Glen does get another chance, but I certainly wouldn't be against him going out and getting another loan. Obviously, last season spent on loan at League 2 level with Kelty Hearts, whereas Mason Hancock was about to go on loan to the Championship. So that maybe suggests where both of them are at right now. Maybe a slight difference in ability, but it'll be one to keep an eye on. I suppose a lot of it depends on Jack McKenzie as well right now too. And Johnny Hayes, the greatest utility man in the world, it seems.
Yeah, and we mentioned the Burnley game as well. It's pretty mad that Joe Lewis is the only last standing member of that team to still be at the club. Just shows how much of an overhaul we've gone through since that day. Yeah,
I mean, often in Scottish football that is the case, of course, but you'd maybe expect a couple more to still be standing, but Joe Lewis and then looks like might not even be the number one for this season.
Yeah, exactly. But the first 45 minutes at Peterhead, I don't know whether it was the conditions, whether there's still a bit of ring rust around the squad or not, but it was very turgid. It was very much had a feeling of watching what we had done last season, where we had lots of the ball and was doing very little with it. And when we did get to a set piece situation, more so the corners, they were absolutely dreadful. Our delivery either didn't beat the first man or was being overhit to the other end of the box. And there was just a total waste. But, unlike last season, when there was a moment where Mason Hancock did get caught in possession and Peterhead broke, unlike last season when the ball would tend to find the back of the net, thankfully, Peterhead maybe themselves suffering from a bit of ring rust, the shot was quite tame and straight at Kel Roos. So, thankfully went unpunished. But one thing I was encouraged by was there seemed to be a change in the intensity come that second half. There was a lot more forward intent. People are going to say, well, we were very much forward intent in the first half, but I felt we actually looked like we were creating more. Christian Ramirez seemed to be having his own personal battle with Newman in the Peterhead goal. And I suppose, people are saying, well, we hit the bar, Ross McCrory unlucky in that first half. And I suppose we should really credit Newman for that save in the first half as well, from probably the best move of the match that we did create, certainly in that first 45 minutes. And Christian Ramirez would have wondered how that didn't find the back of the net.
We found himself thinking of that a lot against Dumbarton too, but there's certainly credit does go to Newman for that, especially since he wasn't signed until about a day before going into the game as well. Yeah. So, he was maybe a bit fortunate with the McCrory one hitting the bar to not have scored an own goal at the end of it, but he looked pretty good. Certainly from the highlights, from what I saw, it did look a lot like not too much going our way in the first half, certainly a lot more in the second half. Anyway, but maybe it was more just that rust you're talking about, and good to see that there was a reaction coming out in the second half too.
Yeah, and I think, for all the hype that Vicente Bizawan got in the pre-season trip to Spain, he obviously got a couple of goals against Brecon. I think, you've got to credit the Peterhead defence, because I personally thought they did an excellent job in keeping him very quiet. I was maybe disappointed. I thought when I seen the price of him to score any time, it was easy money. It turns out not to be the case. And I thought they did an excellent job in nullifying his threat. But in nullifying Vicente, what it did allow was both Jaden Richardson and Matty Kennedy a lot of space down that right-hand side to exploit Peterhead's left. And that was where the penalty came from. Matty Kennedy going down the right, cutting inside, and I just kept thinking, just shoot. But he manages to draw the foul, and we get the decision, and it's an easy decision, I think, for the referee to make in awarding that penalty.
Yeah, for being a stonewall. I don't even know if he intentionally brought him down, but he just sort of fell into him and Matty Kennedy falls to the ground. But good stuff to see from Matty Kennedy. He looks confident on the ball, driving at the Peterhead defence, making things happen, whether that's eventually getting the ball across in the box, taking on a shot, or winning the penalty, as is this case. So, and that's with Matty Kennedy not quite even at 100% fitness where Jim Goodwin wants him yet. So I was a bit sceptical about how much of a role he'd play this season, but albeit, against slightly poor opposition, he's proven me wrong so far, and, long may it continue, and won the penalty, and thankfully Christian Ramirez made no mistake.
Yeah, no mistake indeed. And, on Matty Kennedy, Jim Goodwin did say in his post-match comments from that game that he's still not as fit or as sharp as he would like. So interesting to see what he's like when he does reach the levels that Jim Goodwin wants of him. But he did, give a special mention to the physio for the work that he's been doing, taking out time of his holidays to work specifically with Matty Kennedy to get him ready for the season. So good to see that Matty is determined himself to put in the effort, because I think it is fair to say, Calum, we haven't seen the best of Matty Kennedy in an Aberdeen shirt this season, and we're maybe still short in terms of attacking minded players. Certainly I feel we're still maybe a winger short ahead of the new league campaign. And if Matty Kennedy can become that player that we can begin to rely on, he can put those injury problems behind him, then that's going to create another competition for place. We're seeing that up front potentially with Christian Ramirez having to fight for his place in the team. Matty Kennedy is going to be wanting to do the same in that winger spot.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think out wide we are obviously still lacking. I mean, you've still got Conor McLennan, so we'll maybe okay. But Matty Kennedy, certainly get him to sharpness. And if he can stay fit, it is a good option, certainly for this level as well. It'll be interesting to see. I think Jim Goodwin did mention potentially bringing in a winger, which, given the way we've gone about our business so far, I have full faith that they will end up going and doing that. But at the same time, just more competition for places. That's what we need right now. But quality players who can push each other on to be better, or be an option off the bench for the last 20 minutes, half an hour. And if Mike Kennedy fits into any of that, then ideal, really.
Yeah, and he did use that old footballing cliche that Matty Kennedy is effectively like a new signing. And on that point that you've just made there, Goodwin again reiterated that what he wants from this squad is that strength and depth off the bench. He said, we saw it last season that teams could replace like for like, similar level of player coming off the bench to fill that gap. And he feels that we're not quite at that stage. We don't have that quality to replace somebody that's coming off the pitch. And a club like Aberdeen, to quote what Jim Goodwin said, was, we need that sort of player. We need that strength and depth. And I think it's very apparent we don't currently have it yet. Jim Goodwin, Stephen Gunn, Darren Mowbray are definitely working on that behind the scenes. And hopefully we can get that, because it would give us that confidence that, Conor McLennan might be seen as the fall guy here. We're not relying on the likes of him to come on and, relying on him to change the game if need be.
Poor Conor, honestly, just getting battered. He's not even played and he's getting abuse. I do agree. It is exactly what you need, especially in this long and also, let's not forget, weird season that we're going to have with that break as well.
Yeah,
it's what any team needs that are looking to do something. And also, it is great right now that we're seeing the likes of Ryan Duncan coming off the bench. Liam Harvey did come off the bench as well. They're still prospects right now. We can't be relying on them to come up in those big moments when we need something to happen in the last 20, 30 minutes. It's good to have them around the squad. I'm sure they'll get game time from time to time throughout the season and they'll benefit from that. But you can't just constantly rely on them. So it is good to hear that we are still looking at a few more quality bodies, not just filling in the numbers, filling out the squad. People who can compete, people who can come on and make a difference. It's very, very encouraging.
Yeah, but I suppose on Ryan Duncan, he was definitely, for me, the most impressive in that game against Peterhead in terms of getting balls into the box. He looks really direct. And again, we're going to come on to the game shortly, but last night's game against Dumbarton, I was really impressed with his energy in the second half, his willingness to drive, and almost at times he kind of floated into the middle of the park and was just sitting on the shoulder of the last defender, just going to chuck the ball in behind, almost had belief in his own ability to outpace what was inevitably a very tired Dumbarton defence at that stage. So maybe something that the club we can begin to utilise next season. You know, he might not get as much game time as he's looking for this season, but if they're good enough, they're old enough. I think in certainly what the early stages, what we've seen from Ryan Duncan, again, you know, people will be saying, yeah, well, you have to counter it with the opposition that we're facing just now, but it is promising. And, you know, I think I've seen a comment about getting excited about the signings that Darren Mowbray's, you know, being involved in, the fact that we're, you know, looking further afield. But, you know, I think it was also someone else pointed saying maybe we should wait until we're halfway through that first round of Premiership games to see where we really are, rather than getting ahead of ourselves, like, well, certainly you like to do.
I mean, yeah, obviously, I mean, some of these players could turn out to be total duds. But thinking about it, that's not fun right now, is it?
No, it's not like you to rein in your optimism at all.
No, why would I do that? I mean, plenty to be excited and positive about right now. So I'm very much enjoying this so far. But I think you do make some good point about Ryan Duncan there. So I'm going to make a comparison here, and I don't know if you're going to like it.
Okay.
Ryan Hedges. Both called Ryan, first of all, so that's already a tick mark there. But floating in off that right-hand side, on that left foot, capable of coming inside, the link-up play in behind, wand of a left peg. I'm telling you, you'll start to see it.
Okay, good pressure you're putting on the lad already. But I suppose before I forget as well about the physio, obviously the work that he's done with Matty Kennedy, getting him fit. Big fan of him calling Ylber the man and the myth on his first day on the tour around Cormac Park. I'm sure Ylber has had enough to try and work out what people were saying, let alone trying to work out if that was a compliment or not.
I know, old cliches that he's almost definitely never heard of. Brilliant. Yeah. That'll be good. That'll help him settle in.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was obviously the second goal, Christian Ramirez grabbing his second against Peterhead to get his competitive tally well underway. Brilliant work from the substitute Marley Watkins in getting the assist as well. Really good build-up play from the Dons in that goal. Hopefully we can see Christian Ramirez continue that confidence throughout the season. Yesterday when we played Dumbarton, which we'll come on to, I really can't believe he didn't come away with one goal. That mental that goal was ruled out for offside. Matty Kennedy in an offside position, but I think had Matty Kennedy not even been there, not even one of the best goalkeepers in the world was stopping that shot.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm going to give my thoughts on that a little bit later on, all right? Because you won't like it, so I'm just going to let us enjoy this victory first, and then I'll come to that, all right?
Okay, fine. But obviously Marley Watkins coming on, doing well as well. What do you think for his future in terms of the season ahead? Do you think we're just going to be seeing him more as an impact player like we kind of did at the end of last season?
I think so, and I think that sort of suits him, because you saw, last season how much he struggled. He'd come back in, play a few games, and then then he would pick up some sort of injury. He's an injury-prone player, but if you're not asking him to sort of press for 70 minutes, an hour, or whatever, and he can just come on instead for 20 minutes, 30 minutes against tiring legs, use that super silkiness that we saw against Peterhead to create goals and like that. It's a fantastic option to have. He is good physically when fit. He's quick, he's big, he's strong, he's got fantastic feet, he is capable of making things happen, and he likes a little trick. And I quite like having a player like that as an option to come off the bench. I'm quite enjoying that. And it sort of leans into what Jim Goodwin said. Yeah. Having options like that who can come on, make things happen. What's not to love?
Yeah, and he covers a couple of positions, obviously being able to play up front. And I guess, we're saying we're short in the winger area of the pitch, but he can be deployed in that side of the pitch. But at the end of the day, it was a 2-0 win, 2 goals, a clean sheet, 3 points. What's not to like? Job done. First scare, potential banana skin dealt with, ticked off the list, exactly. And that moved us on to Pittodrie for the first competitive home game of the season as the Suns came to town on the back of a, maybe surprising for some, 2-1 defeat to Stirling Albion, of course, Aberdeen's next opponents. But nothing to worry about really, Calum, because Aberdeen came out the blocks very fast. Ylber Ramadani, despite being in the country for just 2 days, made his first start for Aberdeen, replacing Dante Polvara in the only change from the team that beat Peterhead. And really unlucky not to open his Aberdeen account inside the first 5 minutes.
I got so excited when he started going through on goal. I thought this could be the absolute dream start because I saw his interview. What a happy chappy he is. Absolutely love it. And the way he spoke about it, he was like, oh, as soon as I mentioned it to my dad was like, yeah, go for it. Love that as well, about the move to Aberdeen. He just seems super delighted to be here. And what a start it would have been if he got off the mark immediately. But he said there was so much going through his head, whether it's chip it or whether it's drill it low. I think you saw that maybe in the finish, but certainly encouraging signs that he, as well as being a sort of destroyer, capable, breaking forward, box to box, lots of energy. The fact he went on to play bloody 90 minutes after being in the country for about 2 or 3 days and being said that, oh, he'll maybe play 45, and he asked to stay on for the full game after 20 minutes in the second half as well. God, I love him. I really do love him. And I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself because I might be let down, but so far, so good. He's super cheeky. He's lovely. Love it.
You're definitely ahead of yourself. But no, I do really appreciate the fact that his commitment to the cause was there. The fact that Jim Goodwin was only, prepared to give him 20 minutes, because I was surprised to see him start the game. And I thought, well, maybe he's just going to get the first half, and then, Dante will get the second half. We'll just, ease him into, terms of fitness. But, in that interview that you were alluding to when he said, he had far too much time to think. I think that was a bit maybe apparent as well. But, he said he'd been doing a lot of training back home with his own personal trainer 2 days a week. So he says, he's feeling fit. It's definitely not 100% fitness, but I think he didn't look like he was tiring in that second half. Again, you could probably say, well, you've got to respect the level of opposition that he was up against, but, excellent vision that he had, midfield enforcer we were hoping for, but also great visionary with the assist that he provided for Matty Kennedy.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we saw that midfield enforcer at times taking fouls for the team, professional fouls that you call them, perhaps lucky not to get a booking, but absolutely massive fan of that. And we saw, not only for the assist for Matty Kennedy, but some of his passing range as well. The fact it wasn't just sort of this sit in front of the back four, just keep things ticking over, recycle the ball, getting on the ball, turning, trying to make things happen quickly, advance it between the lines. Oh, a massive, massive fan. And hopefully, obviously, again, the opposition, but he can go on and build on that. And obviously, with more sharpness and things like that as we get towards sort of that league season, if he just keeps getting better and better, and he can start to put performances like that in the league as well, we could be odds are winner here. And this is obviously a very small sample, and we still don't know too much about the guy, but what I like, I see, essentially.
Talk about not getting ahead of yourself. But yeah, it was a good performance, but even on the top of that, we came out with the right intent to looking to grab that early goal, and we saw a lot from, Johnny Hayes in the forward role, who seemed to be, I don't know what kind of position he was playing at last night, whether it was a 10, if he was in the midfield, but Ramadani certainly enjoying his midfield partnership with Ross McCrory. Obviously, we haven't seen Connor Barron yet in competitive action. I think still struggling with that injury that he picked up from the preseason game at Bucky. Where do you see Connor Barron fitting into this team? Or, because I suppose he's going to come in and play, but where do you then move Ross McCrory? Because who drops out right now?
I have no idea, which is a bit of a problem. But a great problem to have. I'm going to use that old cliche. If you've got a selection headache, then it can only be a good thing. I mean, he is bound to come in and play, surely. But you're right. Who drops out? And that's not only about him being fit. Then you've still got Paul Vara as another option, who I think obviously, maybe not going to be a key player this season, but a fantastic option to have. And then also, if they bring in another creative midfielder like they're rumoured to be doing, we've got centre midfielders coming out our ears, and it's fantastic. It really is good. And it's because there will be injuries and suspensions that happen. Suspensions, looking at you, Ross McCrory and Ylber Ramadani.
Yeah.
But we've actually got good options, and not just sort of Futsawojo and Dylan McGeoch if he was fit.
Yeah, well, that's true. And again, I suppose that goes back to the point Jim Goodwin said, we want that quality on the bench to come on and be able to influence things. As I said, we continued that fast start, and a lot of our positive play was going through Johnny Hayes, who is looking very creative, very lively. And there was good link up between him and Christian Ramirez that saw the American put the ball in the back of the net with an exquisite finish, only for the man in the middle, who I'm going to say had an awful night in charge with some of the decisions that he was making. We'll come on to another one later. But your thoughts on this one being ruled out for offside?
Initially, I had no idea what was going on. I thought it was maybe if Hayes had went a little bit too early. And then I thought Ramirez was cut back to Ramirez, so it couldn't be him. Having seen the replay, though, keeper can't dive. He wouldn't have got there, but he can't dive with Kennedy in the way. Kennedy's offside, no goal. And I do agree that he was terrible. The referee was terrible. No idea who he even was. But I think he got it right. And people aren't going to like that, but keeper can't dive, even if he won't get there. Got to have a chance. And with a player blocking his way, it's not possible, is it? Unless he commits a foul on him, which then is a penalty, but he's offside. So, no goal. Sorry, Glenn.
The way you're sticking up for the referee, folk are going to think it was you that was having fun with Bobby Madden in Dublin, not me.
Well, I actually did, because we saw him after the game as well, but I'm just going to keep myself quiet on that one, because maybe you got.
Yeah, maybe for the best. But after the fast start, the game did kind of go into a lull with Aberdeen breaking into sporadic attacks, but again, no real end product, which kind of then resulted in fans that were definitely out with the Red Shed, because you have to commend those that were in the Red Shed for creating such a wonderful atmosphere last night, maybe being distracted by the baby seagull on the pitch and the adult seagulls forcing the eagle out of Pataudry, because someone in section Y nearly got taken out by the eagle fleeing the scene.
Wow, it was honestly chaos. First of all, yes, Red Shed were excellent. Really enjoying everyone going Roos for Calum Roos as well. Love that. Big fan. But yeah, the seagull was mental, wasn't it? Because we sort of had no idea what was going on to start with. We just saw a load of them sort of turn up out of nowhere. But they stuck up for the little baby, which was, great. Then baby decides to go on the pitch. Baby can't fly very well. Oh, but there's a game of football going on, baby seagull. Move out of the way. It didn't for ages. Eventually disappeared at halftime. Jaden Richardson had to jump out the way of it at one point.
Welcome to Aberdeen, Jaden.
I know. I hope it doesn't get like this all the time. But goodness me, it was chaos. It was good entertainment, though. We had to distract ourselves a little bit, but it was good. I was really just hoping it wasn't going to get hit by the ball or something. Yeah. That would have been... Every time the ball went down that right-hand side, I was really scared. I won't lie.
Yeah, we seemed to enjoy attacking down that right-hand side in the first half, and I was more worried that something was going to happen to that seagull during the attack, and it was going to ruin some of that positive attacking intent that we were showing.
I know. Well, it would have been... imagine if the seagull had died. That would have been mental. At one point, I was like, oh, well, someone could surely go and help the seagull. But then if someone went to help the seagull, you saw whatever happened when that seagull tried to fly. The other seagulls were like swooping him down, be like, don't fly, you can't fly, you little idiot. What would have happened if someone went to try and grab it to take it off the pitch? God, it was absolute carnage. Mayhem.
I actually went to speak to my friend at half time, and I forgot all about it in the second half, so I hope it's all right. I don't actually know what happened to it, but moving on quickly. we did take the lead through a deflected, it wasn't deflected, what's the word I'm looking for? Deft header from Ross McCrory, finding the opposite bottom corner. Maybe a bit of sense of relief, but deserved breakthrough for the Dons.
Yeah, I think it was definitely deserved. I mean, you can't really argue. There are plenty of chances, almost too many to actually speak about, but I'm just glad to see us finally take one. And, who needs Alan Russell? What a set piece that was. After you slagged off our set pieces against Peterhead as well. Bloody cheeky, yeah. But it was a fantastic ball in, and Ross McCrory, after he had the goal ruled out against Peterhead, hitting the bar as well, got what he deserved. Ultimately, we got what we deserved, and it was sort of a sigh of relief as well, I felt like.
Yeah. Well, all I can say on the set piece was at least they listened, because I said that we needed to work on it after Sunday. We did work on it because there was another opportunity. I think Anthony Stewart had a decent free header opportunity, and it just headed it straight into the ground and over the bar. So at least we were a bit, the quality was certainly there. And there was also another good opportunity for Christian Ramirez to open his account in the game when Johnny Hayes squared the ball to him. I don't know whether Johnny Hayes could have played the ball along the ground instead of in the air, but when it was easier to score, Ramirez found a way to pass it back to Johnny Hayes instead. Unlucky, but it wasn't for the want of trying to open his account last night. But I suppose the other big talking point from the first half, Calum, was Vicente Bazawin. Was it a penalty? Was it a dive? Should it have been a booking?
Don't think it was a penalty. Also, don't think it was a dive, though, just because it doesn't have to be a booking just because he kind of went down, but he looked like he was trying to keep his feet, and then he got straight back up and still tried to score anyway. So, I mean, I don't think it's simulation. I just think it's not a foul, and he still fell over anyway. It doesn't mean it's a booking. It's just, I think, Vicente Bazawin's reputation catching up with him, which is a damn shame. What annoyed me last night was I felt as soon as he knocked the ball past the keeper, I just had it in my mind he was going to find a way to go to ground rather than stay on his feet. And from certainly in section Y, now obviously I've seen the video I think Gary Wood put out on his Twitter, not the former Dons keeper. No, he's not sitting watching us play Dumbarton. He put the video on it, and it does look like he does maybe take a little bit of a stumble. I don't think the keeper does touch him, but I just thought he was looking or hoping for contact rather than backing his own ability to find the back of the net. Now, we've seen the good of him in pre-season already against Brecon. We saw what he can do in training as well over in Spain. I just think back yourself in that situation. Don't lower yourself that you're thinking, I'll just take the penalty and give it to Christian Ramirez to put the ball in the back of the net from the spot like he did on Sunday. And that for me annoyed me more, that I felt that as soon as he got into that situation, he looked for the contact. That was the way I viewed it. As Gary said to me at Peterhead when he made the comment about Ramirez looking half-arsed, football's all about opinions. We've got to respect everybody's opinions. And that's why football's such a wonderful game, because no two people are going to think the same on certain incidents. I do happen to think that your opinion in this case is a lot of rubbish. I don't think he was looking for it. I just think stumbled because he tried to carry on, went to get the ball, tried to cut it back. But yeah, I just say opinions.
But I also don't understand how it can then be a booking.
Yeah.
As well, I'm not sure, because I thought, he gets himself back up and plays on, the defender then gets back, and it was really weird because the defender's trying to clear the ball and the referee stops the play, and I thought, what's going on here? Is he giving a penalty because we didn't almost get the advantage from Bazawin going down? But no, Dumbarton couldn't clear the line, so he'll give a foul and book him. Just like I said, one of a catalogue of interesting decisions the man in the middle was making last night.
Yeah, it was very bizarre, regardless of what you think of it. Really, really weird. And yeah, not the only one that he made that night. Didn't know who he was. Hope I don't get to know him any better, essentially.
I think the worst thing is I think he is actually a Premiership referee. He reminds me of Sid from Toy Story. That's what he looked like.
Goodness me, right? Let's not lower ourselves to personal abuse. God.
Yeah, well, when we got called, I got called, what was it, the guy from Guess Who, and you got called Captain Pugwash, so we're doing not too bad for looking like those guys.
Yeah,
You're doing your best Mexican impression today, so.
Yeah, I've made myself even worse, and I think it's also just thrown us totally off track because this has been absolute chaos.
It has, but hey, people are enjoying it, so it's a light-hearted look back on what we've been up to so far. Second half, though, Calum, we continued pressing forward, but somehow only managed to score one goal in the second half, despite Greg Wild's best efforts to score an own goal as well, which he put off his own post. I'm sure the ABZ guys would have absolutely lost their minds had he found the back of the net with that attempt. But yeah, Ramirez looking good again. I thought, and probably wondering, I think the chance he had in the second half, I don't know how he scored that. I don't know if you'll have saw it probably from Section S. Did it hit the post or did it hit the stanchion behind the goal?
I think it was the stanchion behind the goal. What wasn't the post? Yeah, stanchion behind the goal. I think that one was probably easier than the original one that he'd missed. I think the other one, John Hayes maybe slightly played it slightly behind him, which is not like Johnny Hayes with cut backs, is it?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I know. But yeah, I think it hit stanchion, but would really love Greg Wild to find the back of the net there. Really weird seeing him playing left back for Dumbarton. We've not mentioned that at all. That was just bizarre. And he did the cheek complain about the lack of chances or whatever he got at Aberdeen as well. And badmouthed us. And now he's playing left back for them. But we'd have loved for him to finish that off, put it in the back of the net. But I suppose that's kind of one of the ones you'll say, you know, when people score a cross and they say, oh, perfectly calculated, probably try and pass it off as that or something.
Yeah. I said, though, impressive for us going forward. We've spoken about Ylber Ramadani, the assist that he got for Matty Kennedy, who stayed on his feet when he went round the goalkeeper and slotted home nicely to give us that bit of breathing room in the game 2-0. A game 2-0 going on 5 or 6. Who outside of Ramadani really impressed for you last night, Calum?
Jonathan Hayes. I mentioned that he was a fantastic utility man. He was basically all over the park last night. And at one point, he was absolutely bombing forward, and then we lost the ball, and they started to try and counterattack, and it was him chasing them down. Yeah. I thought he was very, very impressive. And this is all despite, you know, his age. He seems like he's been around forever, and he's still putting in good performances, albeit, you know, again, consider the opposition. But for me, very, very impressive, both going forward and still defensively too. And I think just also super important when there's so much transition to have someone like him around as well.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, getting his goal last night as well. For me, Matty Kennedy was a standout. Another good, energetic performance going up and down that wing, you know, trying to create, get balls into the box, rewarded. You know, maybe unlucky against Peterhead not to get a goal, and you know, 2 games, good effort, winning the penalty and getting a goal this weekend, this Wednesday, not weekend, but good shift from him. And Liam Scales as well, backing up that performance. Again, you know, our defence didn't really have much to do, but looking really composed. You know, Colin did say in that, you know, discussion I had with him about how composed he is on the ball. He likes to come out from defence. And I think we're beginning to see that. And I think also, you know, again, it's early days, but we're beginning to see why Jim Goodwin wants to get that made a permanent deal.
Yeah, absolutely. He looks very, very comfortable on the ball. You know, a lot of time people try and play out from the back when they don't have the players to do it. Stephen Glass, maybe. But Liam Scales genuinely looks like a defender capable of doing that. Very comfortable. And it looks even better when it's on his left foot too. But also, as well as that, very good in the air. It seems like good defensive awareness, good positioning. It'll be interesting to see how he does against Premiership opposition sort of week in, week out. But it's encouraging. He looks very, very comfortable, and hopefully the start of a good partnership with Anthony Stewart.
Yes. Anthony Stewart, what did you make of his performance last night? Because in the second half, the guy behind me in section Y said, I've seen people in walking football move quicker than Anthony Stewart. God, I love being back at the football. But also, I think last night, the wing backs that we were playing, whilst good going forward, there was times where I was a bit nervous at them defensively. There was a time in the first half, Jaden Richardson ducked out the way of a cross into the box, and it gave Dumbarton a half chance at goal. I think Keller Roos also looked very unimpressed with that moment of defending. I don't know if he was ducking out the way because there was maybe a shout that the ball was going out of play, but
might have been a seagull.
Might have been, yeah. But I was a bit nervous on the wing backs, but there was also a couple of instances when Stewart got turned, and he looked a bit suspect.
I certainly agree on the wing backs. I think it'll be very interesting when they actually get properly tested to see how they do. And then I think when that happens, we'll also then see the real colours of the centre backs too, to see how they cope with maybe being a little bit more isolated at times. In terms of Anthony Stewart, not the fastest player, but I do think his defensive awareness, his positioning, and also just how much he loves a crunching tackle as well, sort of does make up for that. I'm not going to, be too hasty. His pace is a little bit of a concern, but I think if, you can make up for that by being in the right place at the right time regardless, then hopefully we'll be all right. So I'm going to lead towards that for now.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be an improvement on Declan Gallagher, who, despite his 9 caps, should have been good enough for Aberdeen, or those are his words anyway. But let's remember, Ollie McBurney has 13 caps for Scotland, and he's fucking shite. So put 2 and 2 together. But look, Calum, I suppose these games were all about wins, breeding confidence, breeding momentum. I think, certainly what Jim Goodwin's alluded to. We wanted 4 from 4, and we're halfway to that, and with 2 clean sheets as well. We've got to be happy at seeing some progress, and we move to Stirling Albion next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was sitting at the game last night, and I thought, wow, we've not cocked this up yet. This is amazing, given it's Aberdeen. And I think if we do get through all 4 unscathed without having messed things up, I think, although obviously the opposition has to be considered, Wraith, a pretty darn good side at the championship level.
Yeah,
I think credit will have to go, because how many times over the years have we seen us mess things up against lower league sides in the cups? I think, although not perhaps the achievement we would like at this stage of this season, I think the real credit has to go there, not only for that, but the concentration, the discipline against these sides that will, sit in against you, being able to eventually break them down. So if we can get through these next 2 ties unscathed, hopefully with another clean sheet, or maybe even 2, despite the fact Wraith absolutely smashed Peterhead last night, then we could be on for something. Maybe early days, but I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and shout out to Pyan Bovril, who said that every Premiership team had been humbled in the Premier Sports Cup so far. We're doing a job so far of avoiding that banana skin. Of course, Calum, you'll be in attendance at Forth Bank, where a win would, or I think should, seal our qualification to the next round. 9 points should be enough with the top 2 sides going through. What are you hoping to see next week when we travel to Stirling? Are you hoping to see, hopefully, Majowski play for the first time?
Well, that would be a lovely little bonus, but another win, hopefully by another goal or 2, that would be nice to see a little bit more clinical and see us put teams to the sword a little bit more as well. That would be excellent. And maybe even more importantly than another couple of goals, probably another clean sheet, a good defensive performance. Hopefully we look a little bit more comfortable. Obviously not sure how much will actually be tested, but I'd be happy with that. And hopefully it's a lovely evening for it as well down in Stirling. That's all I'm hoping for, really, to be honest with you.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be treated to some nice summer football. Hopefully it's not like 30 degrees like it was in Peterhead, because I couldn't cope with that heat again. But we'll be back next week, of course, looking back at the game against Stirling and looking ahead to the final group stage game against Wraith Rovers. But of course, we'll look at some other news that occurred since we've last been. Calum, obviously last night as well, before the game, there was a minute's applause for the passing of Aberdeen legend Dave Robb, who sadly passed away last week. Let's be honest, as a player we know nothing about, we've never seen, so we're not going to, try delve into his past too much. But a player your dad will have seen, a player Gemma's dad saw and spoke highly about, said he was very talented. What's your dad's sort of memories that he's maybe told you about since the passing of Dave Robb?
Well, I mean, many a time even before the passing of Davy Robb, don't know the story behind it at all, but I heard the song "We Don't Need You Sabio" because we've got Davy Robb.
Yeah.
So don't know what the story is behind that, but I think that sort of tells you how high in regard he was held. My dad mentioning the 1976 Cup final as well. Of course, he scored against Celtic. But my dad started off in the middle of the stand, and by the end of the celebrations, he was at the front, and the Celtic fans were throwing bottles at them with Strathclyde's finest standing watching, his exact words. But he was a map player that obviously, as you said, we don't know too much about, but my dad held him in high regards. I think there was a story about him dating Olivia Newton-John at some point as well. I think of the famous musical Grease. So, and obviously, pre-match, the pre-match announcer saying that he was a real character, and obviously, if it wasn't on the pitch, making something magical happening, it was holding players by the scruff of the neck. So, it's a real shame. It's always a shame when these kind of things happen, and I don't know. My dad just seemed a little bit upset by it, and I know Fraser Wallace requested that he come on and tell some stories. I've done my best to relay some of them because I think getting Neil on here to try and make something happen has just been an utter disaster.
Yeah, utter chaos like this episode has been in general, but obviously the sad passing. I think that photo that I seen on Twitter of him on the bus, it's the open top bus parade after the 1976 League Cup final, I think it is, looking very hungover, but also looking very proud of himself as well. A guy that obviously lived our dreams, scoring a cup final, playing for their hometown team as well. It's just obviously, he says, sad for those of a certain era that support Aberdeen, obviously held in quite high regard with them. So the sad passing of Dave Robb. In other news from the club announced a partnership with First Bus, where free travel will be offered to fans travelling to home games this season. A discount code will be made available to fans for each home game. They can then display that when they get on the bus, allowing them free travel to the game. And to quote Rob Wicks, given the cost of living crisis which many are facing, they are committed to doing what they can to make football affordable. Calum, a great move for those living in the city. But Rob, for the 2/3 of season ticket holders that live out with the city, as you like to tell everybody, what are you doing for us? I'm looking forward to the Stagecoach deal being announced very soon.
God, you're never happy, are you, Glen?
Well, that's the thing. I did see someone say that last night, saying, God, Aberdeen fans always find something to moan about, but we wouldn't be Aberdonians if we weren't finding something to moan about.
Well, yeah, no, that is very true. No, I think it's a good start though, but it would be nice, for those out this side of the city who have even more travelling to do than those actually in the city, to receive some sort of even discounted fares, things like that. That would be excellent. But I'm sure, I've got faith in Aberdeen Football Club, which is weird to say that they will be working on such a thing.
Yeah, and I suppose when Rob continues to say that the club have that clear commitment to tackling climate change, it makes further sense to help those that do have to travel more, as you said. But, with the cost of living crisis, as Rob says, making football more affordable, well, not the food at Pataudry is certainly not more affordable. £4 for a steak pie. Come away.
I know, and steak pies, I don't know about you. I don't even think they're that good, to be honest. Not worth £4.
Better than a macaroni pie.
I had a macaroni pie last night. Unreal. Lasagna pie, though. That is something. Whoa, what's out of my hat? That was amazing. I recommended it to Joe Stephen, and he was like, oh, nah, no chance. They look terrible. Bought one. Delicious as well. So, the price is not so great. I mean, I saw Lewis Sharp posting his burger.
I think calling it a burger is very harsh for those that have seen the picture.
Yeah, and my pal I was with, he basically had the exact same thing. If you're going to be paying prices like that, at least make it edible for a start, slightly appealing to look at. And if you're going to charge even more, then I'd rather pay more for higher quality. But obviously, it's just not very affordable at the current prices as they are, and for what you're getting, not good at all. Bring back when they used to have horse meat in them. That's what I say.
Oh, them the good old days. But if that's the only thing that we've got to complain about right now is the price of the food in the stalls, then something's definitely going right, because we definitely had a lot more to complain about last season.
Oh, yes, very, very true. But, give us time. I'm sure we'll find something.
Well, hopefully not next week. As I said, we will be back next week looking back at the Stirling Albion game and ahead to the Raith Rovers game as we near closer to the start of the Premiership season. Whether or not that will be a live episode, again, will depend on work commitments. Apologies for those that have enjoyed those episodes during pre-season. We've enjoyed doing them as well, and if it is something that we can bring to you next week, we'll certainly look into doing so. So if you have been watching on YouTube, put that notification on so you get alerted when the live video will be released. If you are listening to our episodes, thank you for your continued support wherever you may be tuning in. Hit that subscribe button on your audio platform. Leave us a review. We've had a couple of nice reviews left over the last couple of weeks as well. We really do appreciate them, including the 5-star ratings. No, it was not our parents doing so. But thank you very much again for your continued support throughout what was a really poor season last season. Let's hope we've got lots more to be positive about this season, Calum.
Absolutely, echoing all those thoughts. And thank you once again for helping us reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It really is much appreciated. I mean, look at the bloody state of us, and people still tune in every week. It really does amaze me, but thank you all very, very much for all your support.
Exactly. And you can, of course, follow us on Twitter. We can be found at RTG_podcast. Over on Instagram, RTG.podcast. Until next time, thanks very much.